Welcome to the Balance and Flow Show. My name is Jenny DuFresne. I'm the host of this show designed to help you thrive in uncertain times. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, share this with a friend, or jot down a comment below on the topic of today's show. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. So here's a powerful question. What do you do when you are remote working, you are managing virtual schooling, and you have no outlets? So I want to share some of what we're doing under our roof, and in the hopes that there'll be something that you might be able to take and apply it to your family, enable for you to get some peace and maybe a little bit of space to be in self-care. The reason I find this really important is that for probably the first time in our sort of modern history, many of us are at home working, and most of us have never thought about remote working. It has not been something that we've had to deal with, managing what does that look like. And then on top of that, most school systems, not all, but most school systems are delivering a virtual experience, a virtual learning experience, which means not only are we trying to manage what does it mean working from home, but it also means that we're trying to figure out how to manage our children as they're trying to learn and as they have constant access to us all day long, and or we constantly hear what's going on in the background. So I want to share a little bit about my family. Both my wife and I are working at home right now. I'm working actually offsite and in our offsite office, but we manage businesses. We're running several businesses. And so we have Zoom calls going and meetings going and sales calls going. We have all that stuff going on in the background. And we also have now our 10-year-old is home and he's in his virtual schooling environment. And his virtual school environment is actually really interesting in that he's not in classes set, 7 hours. He actually has a couple of classes a day, and then he has time to do independent work. And so this idea of independence is something that I've been reflecting on and just in how we've structured our family. And this really goes thanks to my wife. Along the way, both of our sons were raised to be pretty independent from early on. And so that's what I want to share today and talk about today, because as I watch women leaders in particular who are juggling and managing, leading, building great careers, leading great initiatives and endeavors outside of the home, then when they come home, there's the other 90 jobs that they have that sometimes we don't give a lot of credence to. Raising children is a full-time job, full stop. If you have more than one, it is a double full-time job or a triple full-time job, full stop. Then on top of that, we have our spousal, our interactions with our spouse, taking care of our spouse, taking care of, if we have caregiving responsibilities, we have elderly parents that we're responsible for caring for. Some people have family members they're caring for. So it's really, there's a lot, right? There's a ton of stuff. And what I've noticed in many women leaders here in the US is that we are often feeling extremely guilty if we're not spending quality time, and however you define quality time, but a lot of time with our children. That's one. The other thing that I've noticed is that there is this inherent sense of obligation that the US culture has, that women must do everything for their children. Now, I just want to pause here. That statement may really disrupt and ruffle feathers, and I get that. But here's the deal: that level of obligation is keeping women sick, and it's keeping women stressed out. It's keeping women angry. It's keeping women depressed. So hopefully you'll be able to listen to the rest of what I have to say, thinking about the fact that the obligation to do everything for our families is actually creating some real challenges. It may create challenges in our relationships, even a frustration, a bubbling anger, or not, just depends. But guilt is something that I notice a lot of women, particularly women who are juggling work. There are single mothers who have to juggle work, childcare responsibilities, and maybe even care of parents. There's also fathers who are doing the same thing. So I'm not excluding fathers, but I think there's been a particular guilt that has been heaped on women who are struggling and juggling between career and children. The third thing is this idea of perfection. Our houses have to look perfect. Our children have to have everything kind of perfect. And so I want to, in this conversation, kind of disrupt. I want to disrupt guilt. I want to disrupt obligation. And I want to disrupt the idea of perfection. And I'm saying this because those three things, at least from my perspective, have to be dealt with before I can take you on this journey to this other idea. So something else that's important for you to know about me is that I became a mother very late. So I'm in my 50s, and that's when I became a mom, and a mom to a then 18-year-old and an 8-year-old. But they're my sons. And but one of the things that I realized, and I've also had an extensive background in education, both early childhood education and elementary education. I was a school leader for a few years, school founder and a school leader. And so I have worked with children and worked around children, which is also why I feel like I can have some of this conversation, and that hopefully, again, it'll be helpful. Because I just want to I want to encourage you to think about some of this a little bit differently. And particularly those people who may not, especially with COVID, where we don't have a lot of flexibility to go a lot of places, we may not be able to pull in some of the care giving resources that we were able to, or we may not be able to rely on our next door neighbors now because everyone's masked up, gloved up, and hand sanitizing every 5 minutes. But guilt, obligation, and perfection, I think, are three of the things that can keep us from embracing this concept. That children from about the age of 3, and sometimes 2-year-olds, but let's say from the age of 3, that children can incrementally take on jobs or tasks in the house that you, moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, uncles, aunts, whoever has caretaking responsibilities, that you may currently be doing. And let me say that again, that children as young as about 3 can start taking on jobs or tasks in the house that you currently are doing that are keeping you stressed out, exhausted, feeling obligated, feeling guilty, and striving for perfection. So what does that look like? Well, the first thing is that if you take a moment and you think about, if you just jot it down, take a piece of paper out and jot down all the tasks that you do for your children every day. So it may be that you get up and you stumble out of your bed and you stumble into your kid's room and you wake them up. So, Susie, it's time to get up. It's time to get up. Oh, mommy, I don't want to get up. Daddy, I don't want to get up, right? Oh, come on. So that could be a 10-minute enterprise. Then once they get up, then you may go and make their bed. Then they may go into the bathroom and you may stand there and, wash their face for them, or you may help them brush their teeth. Then it's time to eat. So they stumble into the kitchen and you stumble into the kitchen, or maybe by this time you're cranked up because you've had a couple of cups of coffee. And so you're like really ready to get everything taken care of, and you get out of the kitchen and you start cooking breakfast. And maybe you've already eaten, but now you're going to cook breakfast or pour cereal and pour milk and get all that out and do it for your children. And then once you've done that, then you have to clean up the kitchen and clean up the dishes and put everything away. And then you go from that, and then, oops, they got to get dressed. So then you take them into the bedroom and you help them pick out clothes, and they figure out what clothes they're wearing. And oh my gosh, where's the laundry? Is the laundry still in the dryer? Oh, let's go get the laundry. So you get the picture, right? So jot down, just take a moment, stop, pause this, and just jot down all the things that you do for your children to get them up, get them into their morning. You just jot down all those tasks. And I want you to look at the tasks after you jotted them down. And I want you to then look at it and think to yourself, if I took just one of these, how much, if I took one of these off the plate, how much time could I get back for my morning? So let's just say making the bed, fluffing the pillows, doing all that. Maybe that takes 5 minutes. I don't know. And then let's say the big battle of even getting them out of the bed. Maybe that takes 10 minutes. I mean, sometimes I know we have little rituals and practices around, you know, certain times of the morning or the evening, but just jot down how much time you think it takes to do each one of the tasks that you wrote down. Once you've done that, I want you really to look at it, calculate all that time. So just for your morning activity, is it 30 minutes of time that it takes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes? Is it an hour? How much time does it take for you to get your child up or children up and get them organized, get them fed, get them bathed, shower, brush teeth, whatever they do in the morning? How much time? And then I want you to ask yourself, if I could win half that time back, if I could take half that time back, what could I do with it? And my hope is you'd say, oh, I would do something for yourself. Go for a little walk, sit down and journal, take a bath, whatever it is. But hopefully with extra time, you would give it to yourself, or maybe it's something you would give to nurture your relationship with your spouse, whatever. And so I share that because in our house, we have a child who at 10 years old, but he was doing this when he was at 5 and maybe 4, some parts of this when he was 4 years old. Our son, every morning, he gets up at 6:45 in the morning, and then because he set an alarm clock. So he has been trained and taught to wake up, get out of bed, turn his alarm clock off. So that's not something that we manage. He then has his task of going and gets his teeth brushed, makes his bed sometimes. We're not as hardcore about bed making. He's in a bunk bed, but regardless, he goes, he takes care of all of his toiletry needs, brushes his teeth, face, all that kind of stuff. And in the meantime, we can be up doing other things. We might go for a walk. We might do other things, but we're not having to manage those aspects of his life. For breakfast, before we got to our current place with him, he would make his own bowl of cereal. Now, I want to be really clear. It wasn't always perfect, which is why I say perfection is something that we have to really disrupt. Yes, sometimes he spilled milk. And so that was a teaching opportunity to say to him, hey, you got to be more careful. Or we could put the milk in a smaller container and he could handle that and pour that on his cereal. He could pour the cereal out of the box. And we've now graduated him to, he graduated to being able to make eggs. He loves eggs, unfortunately. He really loves eggs. But we taught him, and again, this is all about teaching. We taught him how to crack the egg, and we had an electric skillet, so there's no fire concerns. And we had all the safety briefings, because we're a military family, so we had all the safety briefings and admonishments and all of that. We also had to show him what to do, how to plug the thing, how to plug the electric skillet in, what temperature to turn it to, how to crack the egg, how to open the egg, how to throw the shells in the trash, wash your hands so you don't get any, germs. And so we went through that. So we had to train it. And it's a step-by-step training, right? But he can now cook his own eggs. And I can't tell you how much that took off of when we would have to go and cook eggs. Now he can cook his own eggs and he can make choices and decisions around what he's going to be preparing. Our son also loves pancakes. So for a while, he had the little frozen pancakes that he got out of the freezer, put them on a little plate, and he stuck them in the microwave and turned the microwave on. So again, all those things were taught. Now, was it messy sometimes? Absolutely, which is why, again, perfection is something to disrupt. Was it, did we feel a sense of, obligation, like we had to go out and make food? I did for a while, but then I realized it's also really powerful for a child to have that kind of leadership and ownership of their environment, of their, of making a real choice. Do you want to cook yourself some eggs, or you want to cook yourself some pancakes, or do you want to have cereal? Those are very empowering choices in terms of their own leadership, their own sort of autonomy. And so we've gone from pancakes in the microwave to he really, really loves pancakes. And he begged us to, like, oh, Mama, can you make me some pancakes from scratch? So we got our little box of pancake mix, and I would mix them and do all that, and I would cook them, and then he would stand and watch. And so then the next big step we took was actually teaching him how to turn the fire on, and be clear, he can't have the fire on if we've stepped out of the house. He has to have one of us, an adult, has to be in the general vicinity. He can't walk away from the fire. So there's been real clear things that we've said to him about using the fire. But now, just this morning, he made his own pancake batter. He put the little skillet on the eye of the stove, the gas stove, and he turned it on. Click, 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 click. And we even talk about that click, 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 click as it is igniting. If it goes too long, you turn it off, you wait. So we've had all of these sort of training tips. But he made himself 5 little pancakes this morning. Now, I'm sharing that in great detail because I'm disrupting what a lot of us believe that children can do. And I'm disrupting what's possible, right? Because we've never thought that it's possible for a child to do the kinds of things that our son does. And I'll extend to this. He does his own laundry. Now, we've had to teach him, put all your whites in this thing, put all your dark clothes in this thing. But he has a stool. He gets up, he takes his clothes, he puts his clothes in the washer, he takes a scoop of detergent, he sprinkles it on there, he closes the lid, and we have everything's kind of preset. So he, starts the washing machine. When the washing machine is done, he gets up on his little stool, he pulls everything out, puts it into the dryer, closes the dryer, sets the dryer, and dries the clothes. When the buzzer goes off, I don't fold his clothes. I don't pull his clothes out of the dryer. He does. And he folds those clothes and he puts them away. Now, perfection. Sometimes he likes to take all of his socks and stuff them in his drawer. But I'm not worried about that because I'm not going to spend a lot of bandwidth and energy on whether he put his socks together, right? He has a sock drawer and an underwear drawer and a t-shirt drawer, and he has to hang some of his clothes up. But I wanted to share this because these are the kinds of things that moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles who have caregiving responsibilities of children are spending so much time doing. So even a little person, you could teach a 3-year-old how to go through again, if you don't have to be folded perfectly and all of that, the child can put away, a little kid like that can put away their underwear, their clothes, their socks. They can even try to fold them, because as you learn, you get better, right? As you learn, you get better. Our son irons his own clothes. So when he has a collared shirt, we've taught him how to iron. And again, it's a step-by-step process. Yes, I have to bring the ironing board out, give him the iron, but he plugs it in and he does all the things that he needs to do. And again, it's important to know and to think, as you look at that list that you wrote down of all the tasks that you do, really think about the things that you can teach. Now, you're not going to do all of it at once. If this is something that's completely new to you, I strongly encourage you to do step by step. Take one thing, teach it, explain why it's important for the child to do that, and that they get to be, big boys and big girls. They get to take leadership. They're really excited when when they're doing it. Be very excited about what they're doing and how they're doing it. Give them, give them words of encouragement, know that it will not look perfect, know that it doesn't have to be perfect, because perfection is really a time killer and a stress builder, frankly, right? But just some things to think about all the way through. I mean, our son can make all 3 meals if he so desires. He knows how to make macaroni now. And he has actually created his own recipe with macaroni and cheese that he's created on his own. We had to show him, put some milk and add the little cheese stuff in there. But these are things that kids can do. He definitely knows how to sweep floors. So that's something that a child can do at any age, right? And if you have to correct it, you correct it, because that's part of training. That's part of teaching. That's part of a child developing skills and habits of independence, skills and habits of leadership, skills and habits of really actually even being a self-esteem booster. One of the things that I think guilt and obligation do is that it disempowers children from feeling a sense of responsibility in their lives. And as they grow up without that sense of responsibility and accountability, things can perpetuate that aren't necessarily good character builders. So I hope that this is helpful. Imagine again the amount of time and the reduction of stress in your lives if your children can do the dishes, like all the way through, from if you don't have a dishwasher, from filling the sink with soapy water to washing the dishes there, filling the sink with clean water, clear water, all the way through to drying the dishes, to getting a stool and putting them away. Now, if it's your fine china, I do not recommend your children doing dishes unless they're older, they're teenagers or what have you. But these are the kinds of things that moms and dads all over the country are stressed out trying to get done. And children are running around doing whatever or complaining about things. Oh, yes. Speaking of complaints. Now, I just want to be really clear. Your children are not always going to be excited to do all these things. But guess what? It's more important that they understand the value of the contribution to the family, the value of what it takes to work and to make things run in a family, than it is to succumb to the complaints. Children complain, right? Adults complain too, but children can nag and whine and carry on. And so I would encourage you, if you're a parent who wants to try this on, and to try it on for a while, I would do it for at least a month. Try 1 or 2 things on for at least a month. Be supportive, train well, teach well, show. So it's like I do. So I'll do it. I'll tell the kid, what do you see me doing? And then they can do it. And I'll sit there and coach them and help. And then they do it on their own. So, but know that they'll complain, that, it's the same thing that if you go in a grocery store and they want a candy bar and you say no, and they fall out and carry on and stomp around, do whatever. So that's just normal. But don't allow that normal behavior to stop you from requiring them and expecting them to complete a task or complete a chore or whatever. Some people may say, well, do you pay your son to do chores? We have not. I do believe that there are some things that are just part of your contribution to your family and learning and developing that muscle. Everything we do in the world, we don't get compensated for, right? So I wouldn't necessarily make that my first stop, is to incentivize it. I wouldn't necessarily do that. I would encourage good words, kind words, a hug. I think those are nice. We're talking now about for like outdoor things, like if it's watering the grass, like he takes the trash out, he takes recycling out. So he does all of those tasks, and not every day. They're interspersed throughout the week. But, I'm now thinking about the value of money and teaching the value of money, right? Because kids are always, they want to buy everything and buy anything when you walk into a store, or they see an ad on television, or like, oh, you should buy me this. So I'm thinking about having jobs now. So translating those tasks or chores into jobs. And I'm thinking about it. I haven't decided fully yet. But then value, like giving our son some form of payment, a set salary, if you will, for completing those tasks. But again, if that happens, and what I've said to my wife is that if we do that, I don't want to sit around and have to remind him every 5 minutes. Oh, have you done this? Have you fed the dog? Did you give water to the dog? I'm not going to do that, because in a job environment, we're not, our boss doesn't ask us every 5 minutes, hey, did you send that email? Hey, did you return those phone calls? Hey, did you finish that report? That usually doesn't happen. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. Again, the biggest thing that the reason I shared this is that it's really important to claim back some of your time. Be able to then allocate that time to your own self-care, allocate that time for your mental well-being, allocate that time to walk outside, to refresh yourselves, allocate that time not to do more work for your employer or for your business, but to take more and better care of yourself. That's ultimately how we're going to thrive in this time. That's ultimately how we have balance, and that's ultimately how we flow freely and peacefully in our lives. So I'm really excited. I hope you found some value to this. Please subscribe to this channel because as I have more and we'll have guests coming on to talk, but I want you to get the first alert of a new show coming on. So make sure that you subscribe. Share this with just 2 friends that could really use it. I know there's a lot of families out there right now that are struggling, trying to figure out how to do all of this. But I do think that this is something that can be very beneficial. I know it's been super beneficial in our household to have our child take on tasks and responsibilities that he is very capable of doing. Other countries do it, and I think in the U.S. we've just sort of really super focused on children. Should be taken care of and coddled all this, but I just don't think that that's very valuable to their own growth and development. So my name is Jenny DuFresne, and I'm the host of Balance and Flow Show. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave a comment below, something that was an aha for you. I'd love to hear from you, and I hope you have an amazing day. Take care of yourselves first and foremost. If you're listening to this, take 10 minutes to go out into the fresh air and just breathe. Have a great day.